Welcome, folks, to another edition of the Tech Minute with me, your host, Marco.
So today we're going to be learning about computer graphics, formats, editors, and how to optimize files to use them on the web. After this lesson, we should be able to know the difference between JPEG, PNG, and GIF file formats. We should also be able to recognize the different file types when they're used on the web. Should also know which one is used, where, and why. Also know the difference between graphic editors and capabilities, or at least some of the ones that I've used and the ones I'm going to show today. Also know how to use a common open source graphic editor that I use, and also know how to resize a file for standard used on the web. Okay? So the first thing we're going to look at is all the different file types that are out there in terms of graphic files. You have the JPEG, the PNG, and the GIF. Here I have a table that will describe what each is best for, whether each one offers transparency, what the file compression is for each one, and whether it offers the animated pictures that you may have seen. Now we start out with the JPEG. What is it best for? It's best for pictures because they have hundreds of colors. Does it offer transparency? No, it does not. It's great for file size because it has a great compression algorithm. Animated pictures? No, it does not offer animated pictures. So I have a sample here of a butterfly with the full range of colors. Notice that there's no transparency here. Every color is solid. Now let's go over to the PNG. PNG, even though it's a newer format, the one thing that it does offer that JPEG does not is that it allows for multiple levels of transparency. The file size compression is not very good. It's not as good as JPEG, and it does not offer animated pictures. Now GIF format. The range of colors is much smaller, it's about 256 colors. It does offer one color transparency, and it's great for small graphics, but when you start to make them bigger, the files become very large. Does it offer animated pictures? Yes, it does. It's the only format that I know of that offers animated pictures. So in this slide, I went out to the web. I went to the LA Times web page, and I grabbed a page so that we can start to look at the different file types that were used to create this page. The top one, I believe it's a PNG because it's both a picture and it has transparency. That's what leads me to believe that this is a PNG. The bottom picture or graphic, it's definitely a JPEG because it has the full range of colors. So there's no question that this is a JPEG. It's pretty large, and it would need the compression algorithm to be able to post this picture. Then the one to the right is definitely a GIF because it has a smaller range of colors, and it's not a photograph, so that's a GIF. So now you can go out on the web and start to look at these and analyze what types of different file formats were used to create them. In this next slide, we're going to look at some of the common graphic editors that are out there that people use. These are the ones that I've used, and so obviously I'm going to tell you about them. The very first one is Photoshop. It is very expensive. It's kind of hard to learn to use because it has all the bells and whistles, and you know, I'm going to be honest and tell you that it is a little hard to learn because there's just so much to learn about it. But it's the standard when it comes to graphic editors out there. So the things against it is that it's very expensive and it's a memory hog. So if you go and buy this, you better also save up and buy some extra memory for your computer because you will need it. The next one is GIMP. It's an open source software. It's out there. It's free to use, but it is challenging to learn how to use it. In my experience, it has a very steep learning curve, and it can be buggy at times. The next one on the list is View. It's free to use for the most part. If you start making money on it, I'd recommend you reward the developer. with some money as well. It's very easy to use. It's extremely fast for simple operations. So here I listed no cons against it, but I guess you could say that it is not as robust as Photoshop or GIMP because it doesn't offer all of the features that those other two true graphic editors offer. But it, for very simple operations, cropping, resizing, changing some colors, going to black and white, for those features, for that functionality, it's very good to use. And the last one is Windows Paint. It's free, it's easy to use. This is the one most people use when they're capturing screenshots or what have you. But the one thing against it is that it's not very good. It doesn't optimize files. It creates huge files, and the number of colors it can work with is very limited. So my recommendation is, yes, probably go and learn how to use Windows Paint, because not all computers may have the other software on the table that I'm listing here. But as soon as you can, stop using Windows Paint and start using at least IrfanView or one of the other two. So my recommendation is for you to go on the internet, go to irfanview.com, download the software, install it, and if you make any money using it, just share it with a developer. So now that we know about different file formats and the different graphic editors that you have out there, and you've downloaded IrfanView, it's now time to look at an example. So what I've done here is I've opened a file of a picture that I went and took one time. I was driving around downtown Los Angeles. Here is a beautiful Disney Music Center, and so I decided to take a picture, and this is what came out. It's a pretty big file because my camera is, I have it set to take pretty large files, because the larger the file, the better it prints out. But that's not necessarily a good thing when you want to put it on the web. When you want to put it on the web, you need to optimize those big files. So in this particular case, this file is 3600 times 2700 pixels. It's 72 dpi. Don't concern yourself about the DPI too much. You could, if you start printing things, you may need 150 to 300 DPI, but we're looking to optimize a file for use on the web. So this particular file is 5 megabytes of size. It's a pretty big file. Chances are a lot of websites won't even allow you to email or to upload files this big. So to use on the web, it's best to optimize it. In other words, we're going to shrink this. For a web page, the ideal size is usually 800 by 600 pixels. One of the cool things about IrfanView is that it will grab a file, and no matter how big it is, and it will fit it to your screen so that you can see the whole picture in one screen. A lot of graphic editors don't allow you to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw your attention to the bottom left corner where I drew this red rectangle, and my question here is, can you read the license plate on this car? Well, obviously I can't, so most likely you will not be able to either. But when I blow up this picture to 100% view, then the only portion that we'll be able to see of the picture is what's inside this red rectangle. And we're going to go on to the next slide to see that. So here we are. I've now changed the view in IrfanView to 100%. Now I can read the license plate on this car. The file attributes at the bottom left confirm that it's a very big file. Okay, so it has all the sizes and in terms of display and file size that you can see, and I even blew that up so you can confirm that. So most websites won't allow you to upload this file. If they do allow you to upload it, as soon as they get it over to their site, they're going to say, oh, you need to trim it, and they will give you some controls so you can start trimming or cropping the picture, and probably they will only allow you to see this part of the picture, which is not what you want, right? You want the You don't want a car unless that's what you want, but the importance of this particular picture was the Disney Music Center. So in this slide, we're going to look at how you go about changing the file attribute in OrphanView. One of the things I recommend is that you crop the image, and it's very easy to do. Basically, you grab your mouse and you draw a rectangle around whatever part of the picture that you want to capture, and that's how you crop the picture in OrphanView. The next step is to go to the image menu and go to File Resize to bring up this dialog box. First thing you got to make sure is that your preserve aspect ratio is checked if you're going to be manually changing this. There's two ways to change the size here. There's a manual way, which is I've labeled here with A, and then there's the sort of the standards. They have a set of standards that you can use. And remember, I recommended 800 by 600 pixels. So you could do either way, but if you're doing the manual, make sure that you have aspect ratio checked. Okay, so once you made the change, you click OK, and you go to the File menu, and you save as, and you give it a name, you save it to your favorite folder, and then it'll be ready to upload to whatever website you want to use the image. And that's basically how you do it in OrphanView. It's a very simple procedure. I mean, it's very easy to use. I think once you start playing around with OrphanView, I think you're going to like it quite a bit. And now we're at the end of this video. So let's go ahead and recap on what we've learned here today. At a basic level, you now know about the various formats of graphic files. You now are able to tell them apart as you come across those on the web. You now know about some of the most common graphic editors out there. You also know about OrphanView and some of its great features. And the last thing is that you know how to optimize a file for the web using OrphanView. The last thing I can say is that by far, this is not the end of all graphic editing. There's tons more to learn. I myself, I'm still learning. So get out there, search YouTube, Google, whatever, and do some more learning. Thank you.